I'm Wayne County Treasurer Eric Sabri. We are living through unprecedented times. As a result, the Michigan Homeowner Assistance Fund was created. This fund, administered by the state of Michigan, is designed to help homeowners cope with pandemic-related hardships, such as delinquent property taxes. Residents may apply for up to $25,000 to help cover 2019, 2020, and 2021 tax years. Previous year's taxes must be paid in full or in a payment agreement with the Treasurer's office. Eligible homeowners must have a qualified financial hardship that occurred on or after January 21st, 2020. You must currently own and occupy your home as your primary residence and must have owned it since January 21st, 2020. To see if you qualify, please visit waynemetro.org, call 313-388-9799, or email taxinfo@waynecounty.com. We're here to help.
Well, good morning. If you were looking for the weekly broadcast of the Ask Welfare Rights program, you found us once again. My name is Maureen Taylor. I work with Michigan Welfare Rights, and I always refer to us because generally Marion Kramer and I have done this program for a number of years, but she's in semi-retirement. So we have from time to time members of Welfare Rights and others that'll come and sit in with us, and we are blessed once again today to have longtime member of Welfare Rights, Miss Teresa Clayton. I was going to call you Teresa, somebody else's last name I was talking to this morning. But Teresa Clayton is here. Okay, that's the camera. I got you. And that's she's here with us again. Teresa is a longtime member of Welfare Rights, a expert educator. She is a teacher, and that's one of the things we're going to touch on this morning, this issue of education and the challenges that education represents. Before I go there, let's do the obligatory commercials. If you want to call in, you can always do that. The numbers are on the screen, 313, always the area code, 868-0342, 868-0351, or 868-4336. If your internet is working, you can go to the website, and we're still checking that out because people say they're having difficulty accessing the program online. If you're able to do it, it's www.tv33whpr.com. And I've always mentioned that if you have one of those great big old floor model TVs that is in the basement, you can get one of those metal coat hangers and form it into an antenna and put it on the back of one of those TVs, and you'll be able to access the program at 15.2. All right, Miss Clayton, I thought we needed to say something today about this little girl, Miss Winter Cole Smith. And it was last Sunday, 2 days after we left last Friday's broadcast, that we first heard her name. And apparently she and her mom and a baby sister or brother were living in Lansing, and they had the mama had an ex-boyfriend. And this ex-boyfriend traveled to Lansing to see if he could get her back. And I'm sure that's what the discussion was, and Mom didn't want anything to do with him. So he sexually assaulted her, stabbed her several times in an effort to try to kill her. There are two babies. A little girl named Winter is 2, and there's another child, almost an infant, that was involved. And I don't know if that second child belonged to him or not, but the first one, Winter, did not. So he grabbed his 2-year-old and escaped with her. And we had started to look for that little girl, everybody, since last Sunday. And, of course, we found her last night where he or someone he's associated with dumped her in an alley on the east side. Dumped her in the alley. And police found her, FBI found her, someone did. She was already deceased. We already hope that her, at the moment of her demise, it was quick and painless. And the only thing I could think of is what I said to both you and Tim this morning. He wasn't just a beast last Sunday. He was a beast on the day before. He was a beast the week before. He was a beast the month before. Might have been the reason why the mom separated from him, because he was violent. And so now he never would reveal what happened. Doesn't matter now, because the authorities have found this tiny little girl, 2 years old, found her body. And, autopsy and cause of death and all of that is going to be examined. But, there's a bigger question here. And the bigger question is this ownership concept that men have of women. If I don't want you, nobody else can have you. If you separate from me, you don't have the right to go forward. And there's just a level of capitalism involved in this. I own you, and I will own you until you're dead. So, Miss Clayton, what thoughts do you have about this horrific event and how it has ended up?
Miss Taylor, I can't say a lot about it because every time I think about that little 2-year-old, tears just come to my eyes. It just hurts.
Yeah.
Having experienced domestic violence myself, I truly understand the fear that young lady felt, and then trying to get away from him, and just nothing you do, there's no protection for you. And it sounds like she did all the right things. She filed the PPO. She moved away. She tried to protect herself, and it didn't work.
Yeah. I've been a member of Welfafr Rights for a long time, and I used to. Sylvia set it up with this blog a long time ago, and it was called Recipients, from the phrase recipients. Recipients speaks. And I was talking to her a couple weeks back before all this, and she was interested in going back to publishing every day, every other day, some kind of short little piece that was germane and connected to the lives of low-income and moderate-income women. And I've been thinking about it now since this event has come up, and to go back and look at the history of how this subjugation of women, how did we get to that? And of course, with the reversal of Roe v. Wade and all of these, the gay community under constant attack. I heard the Secretary of Transportation say something the other day. I forgot what the response or what the question was. It's Pete Buttigieg. And he said something like, what kind of person wakes up with the thought on their mind to do what I can to destroy the lives of someone else?
Right.
And we have people that, look like when they wake up in the morning and they yawn, and then they say, okay, what can I do to make somebody else miserable? And it seems to be their beck and call. And I was thinking of that, historically, and I've been in this movement for a long time. The first group of people that were ever subjugated in life, I'm talking about back with cavemen, all of that, the first group of folks that were ever oppressed were women. Very first group. And we're talking about women, gatherers, planters, gardeners, and that sort of thing. And the men go off with their bows and arrows and their rocks and whatever they had, try to figure out how to bring back game, animals and whatnot to feed the collective. And if they were not lucky and they came back empty-handed, nobody starved, because the women had roots and nuts and vegetables and knew how to at least sustain the community. And that worked for a long time. You know, you could be friendly and have girlfriends and boyfriends, and everybody was on the same level. But once animals started to be domesticated, and maybe you had one pig, and then you had two pigs, and then you had five pigs. Well, all right, you put a pen around your five pigs, and those pigs became your pigs. You didn't want to share them with anybody else. So now your woman, your mate, that was okay, but you needed that one, and you need to be able to identify any children that were born of that relationship from you and that woman and these pigs. They all now belong to you. And so the chastity belt kind of conversation rose up, you know, and I'm summarizing this over thousands of years, but to be able to identify that this child is your child and belongs to you, and you have responsibility for that child, means you had to subjugate that woman. And so the very first group of people that were enslaved, you know, were women, and how that has continued, and how many times over the last 100 years, 500 years, the last 3 weeks, the last 3 months, where this woman was at the car dealership and minding her own business. She broke up with her boyfriend of however many years, I think 10, 12 years, that he went to her job and brought her out and shot and killed her where she worked. Just 3-4 weeks ago, the African-American doctor got a real short afro, cute little girl, little fat face, married. Her and her husband had some kind of argument. Argument's been going on right here in Wayne County, and he killed her, and then he killed himself. And we've got example after example after example. You raised this question of domestic violence. I know we had a buddy of ours that was going to show up today, and to raise this question of domestic violence and how it just goes on. And you mentioned, Ms. Clayton, how in this particular case, Lil Winter's mother looks like she did everything she could do. You know, PPO, personal protection order, she's gone to court, and all of those things. But I would say to women, and especially the men that are hearing this broadcast, there are two more things you might want to put in your arsenal, put in your toolbox. Okay? If you have an inkling of somebody that you're very close to, emotionally and physically, and they have an aggressive side, and you see that aggressive side, you know, always make certain, you know, calm down. Long-term plan, all right, because you're not sure what you might need to do. The second thing you might always need to do is to make certain that you take self-defense classes. You go enroll in a class where you know what a gun is and what a gun looks like. And hold on just a moment. And you want to be careful to make certain that it is described as physical fitness, because you have to be careful in the neighborhood. We live in difficult times, and you want to be careful of that. And you want that significant other to understand that. But that's the second piece. The first piece is something I had to learn, and that is wherever you take that husband, or mostly that boyfriend, sometimes that girlfriend, they go to Aunt Mary's with you, and they go to the barbecue with your cousins, and you know they know all of your friends, they know all of your relatives except for one.
Right.
Except for one.
Yes.
I had a grandmother that lived in Belleville, Michigan, and I took my family there a couple times, but nobody knew the address. Nobody knew how to get to it. And there came a time where the person in my life was want to tell me what I could and could not do. It gave me some ultimatums. Oh, okay. All right, I know how this is going to work out. And at the right moment, I was in the car with my son, and I knew where to go. All right, because nobody knew how to get there. The person that I was fearful of did not know how to get to that place. You ride up and down the street and all that. phone number wasn't written in any phone book or anything else. And I would advise all the listeners, make certain you have that one address. Your
right.
girlfriend of 20 years ago, you went to high school with her, at grade school with her, and you know where that girlfriend lives, that you've talked to her. She's called you and been to your house to visit. And now we have this impasse, and you want to contact that girlfriend, that former employer, that distant relative, and say, I'm in some trouble and I need a place to stay for a few days. Can I come by? So nobody can find you while you take the time to heal.
Right. Yes, yes.
Yeah. Point number one, point number two. Ooh, Lord, ooh, Lord. Caller, you've been very patient. Caller, you are on the air. Thank you for waiting, and thank you for calling Ask Welfare Rights. Caller, you are on the air.
Grand Rising, Grand Rising, Grand Rising, everybody.
And Grand Rising, Madam Wheeler, and how are you today, my dear?
Grand Rising.
Alrighty, are you listening to this conversation we're having?
I just heard the tail end, and that's some very important information.
Yeah, you always have to have a place where you may need to heal, where you may need to regroup, where you may need to get in contact with your feelings again,
Right.
and get some rest and relief for a little while you make your plans on what is your next best steps. So, the young girl we're talking about, Miss Winter, they found her. You know that already, Grand Rising. And they found this little girl, and
Baby.
yeah, we're all talking about what kind of a young man was this that had the capacity.
What kind of a monster?
Yeah, has the capacity to do that sort of thing. So all of the young men that are in prisons, I guess they've already sent the message that they read the news, and they understand what's going on and how they're waiting for his arrival at the appropriate prison, and that they would be able
to. I was talking to a young man yesterday.
Yeah.
And he said that there are men who purposely go to jail for purposes like this.
Well, this young man is 26 years old. So he's been a beast for a long time. He didn't just get to be a beast the other day.
It didn't happen overnight, right?
No. So he been involved with some difficult things, and it's out of our hands now because the criminal justice system has him. And once they pass him off to the next place where he'll be for decades, and maybe not for decades, there are a number of people that are aware, and they will be waiting for him. It doesn't matter how many prisons they transfer him to. There'll be a group of folks that'll be able to welcome him at every location that he's transported to. Grand Rising, tell us what we need to know today.
Well, it's Friday.
Hallelujah.
And you know what that means.
I do. Go ahead.
COVID is still here. It hasn't gone anywhere. We don't know when it's leaving, how it's leaving, if it's even leaving. But we've got an answer here in Highland Park for all of Wayne County. You can go to Ernest T. Ford Recreation Fieldhouse here in Highland Park at 10 Pinckett. Free. I'm going to say it again. It's free. Booster. Vaccination shots, Johnson & Johnson, Moderna, Pfizer, all free today from 9 to 3 o'clock.
All right, that's the Highland Park Rec Center. It's still open and making available vaccines, booster shots. All of that's available, and we tell people all the time, all these programs that are free, they're on borrowed time. We don't know when,
Right.
Health department's going to say, well, last week is our final week. So folks that are interested in getting that booster shot, in a minute it's going to be time for folks to get that flu shot. This is July. August, September, a lot of folks go get those flu shots and whatnot. So right now, the rec center in Highland Park or at Pitkin Street still giving out not only shots, but they have information, written information about all kinds of diabetes and high blood pressure. I went to the doctor yesterday, and concerned I've got this growth on my face, and I thought, oh shoot, I've been watching these TV programs and stuff, and I thought I better not fool around. And met a wonderful Dr. Cooper up at Henry Ford Health Systems up on West Outer Drive in Southfield. And she said, look, I hate to tell you this, and I braced myself. I said, okay, what is it? She says, you're a young woman, and you're developing acne. I said, what? And she said, yeah, do you still have a monthly period? So I stood up. I told her, look, you don't want to start no fighting in the doctor's office here, but I don't want to hear that. What are you talking about? She said, your body is fresh. Your blood pressure is perfect. Your heart rate is great. She said, your skin is in good shape. I told her, look, my face is falling. The arms are falling apart. She said, forget all that. You got a pimple. So I told her, give me my information. I'm not coming back to see you anymore. Just write that stuff down. And she just bust out laughing. So, things change. And you want to go somewhere where people can tell you that you're going to be all right. So I've got this impacted pimple. And so I have to ask her, we're going to lance it, what we're going to do? And she said, no, that'll leave a scar. And are you dating? I told her, give me my paperwork. Give me my paperwork and let me get out of here, because, see, you're some trouble, Dr. Cooper. And she just laughing. So I got all my paperwork and whatnot. So anybody that's listening to this program, don't be getting no ideas here, Don't be getting no ideas. I'm trying to tell you about it.
Maureen. You and your second coming.
Hey, listen, second summer, nothing. I'm 150 years old. I'm trying to figure out how to retire into frost. I'm doing the best I can, right?
We all want to be
oh,
like you.
Lord,
Getting acne.
Yeah, well, hey,
like
who knew? She talking about acne and a pimple. Am I still having a monthly period? What?
Right.
I don't even want to. I don't even want to think about nothing like that. You know what I mean?
No.
But her point was, we have to take care of ourselves. We're supposed to be taking better care of each other. We have to work on that. We do have to eat more fruits and vegetables, and it's expensive to be healthy. We do need to leave some of that red meat alone, and I've discussed this, Miss Clayton, and nothing in the world better than a great big old hamburger, man.
Oh, Lord.
Just thinking about it makes me cough. Great big old hamburger, loaded up with dill pickles and a bunch of mustard and some raw onions. Ooh-wee. Lord have mercy, that's some good eating. There go Tim running. I started talking about hamburgers. Tim then left the studio, But
fries on the side and a big old glass of black cherry Faygo.
Girl, please, But those are things that we have to try to find out to minimize that access to those things. So the fact that the health department in Highland Park is still operating COVID shots, still managing the therapies up there at the Pitkin Center that we need. Water. You want some water?
No, thank you.
Okay, I have one. Thank you very much. It's my allergies. So the fact that Highland Park is still offering that option is a wonderful thing. And you don't have to live in Highland Park to access that.
That was my
Wayne
question.
County.
Yeah. All right. Say that again, Madam Grand Rising.
Wayne County. Just be a Wayne County residents. Come on up there, and our doors are open to you. And by the way, too, I'm not a diabetic, but however, I have a friend that her family has the predisposition. So there is a diabetes clinic Mondays for 6 weeks, and we share. And I joined just to go along with her. But I thought, hey, why not just get some more support system about eating right and exercise, and we weigh ourselves every Monday for 6 weeks, and we do exercise and we talk about eating. And then after the 6 weeks, it's a once a month program. But that's also at the Ernest P. Ford Recreation on Mondays at 11 o'clock.
Now say that again, Mr. Engineer. We might need a slight boost in that volume.
Okay.
Now say that again. What is this program that's offered on Mondays? What
It's
is
a
it again?
diabetes clinic offered by State Clinic. You know, State Clinic on Glendale.
Yeah.
But there's a diabetes clinic for Wayne County residents. And we weigh our step. We get weighed in the morning as soon as we come in. And then we have health facilitators give us, health tips, and we talk about eating right. We chart our eating and exercise for that whole week, and then we share it with the facilitators, especially just the exercise. If we can get 20 minutes a day, that will improve the blood pressure and the circulation and the heart rate. So this is a 6-week program, once a Monday, and then after the 6 weeks, we will meet once a month
Okay.
at the Reggie McKenzie, at the Ernest T. Ford Field House. Yeah, and even though I'm not a diabetic and it doesn't run in my family, I just thought it would just be a good prevention health clinic for me to attend.
That's very important. I mentioned already, I made this comment about how it's important that we take better care of each other.
That's right.
And we need to do that. So an exercise class, an health education class being offered, and it's free of charge, I understand,
Free.
on
Yes, it
Mondays in Highland Park to learn a little bit. My father was diabetic, and Daddy never said anything about being diabetic until he started to get sick. We had no idea. And of course, me and my sisters, we want to, get the book and let's read about it. What does it mean? And he started to be sick, and at first it was the big toe that got amputated. I'm thinking the prime time right now, the football star that's out in Colorado and having these diabetic problems, and the toe and the next toe with my dad, and then the foot, and then amputation below the knee. And it was clear to me that his diabetes was not functioning in a way that he could survive. And, I'm in the books, I'm looking it up, what's the history of this? And since the Civil War, not doctors of the medical field has not been able to adequately face and deal with diabetes when the blood decides it's not going all the way down to the feet anymore. It's going to stop at the ankles.
You're right.
Go ahead.
They can go on the moon, but they still haven't conquered the diabetes struggle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the only cure for diabetes, especially after it gets out of control, is that area in the foot that is not getting the appropriate kind of blood flow, you have to cut it off.
That's why with Madam Grand
I had
Rising.
a very good, he was the landlord of the apartment building. It was only a 10 small apartment building in California. And he was also living on the premises, and his name was Bob. He was once a a set designer for the studios, but he had to retire early because he was colorblind. Now, besides being colorblind, he was also a diabetic.
Wow.
And I know I came home one winter, and I was thinking about him. It was a holiday. And I was thinking about Bob, because he would always say, well, all right.
Yeah.
He used to tickle me. And I got a call from one of the neighbors that he passed, because they started with the toe, and then they worked on that foot. I used to go to the hospital with him, and then it was just a matter of months.
Yeah. Yeah, it got worse and worse. Go ahead, Ms. Clayton. Go ahead.
Madam Grand Rising says something very important: prevention. Prevention. We want to go to diabetes class when we have diabetes, but it's so important, to get educated about it before, so that those types of things we can do the best we can to prevent it. That prevention is so important.
Yeah, it is, because once the diabetic syndrome starts and the blood decides it's not going to go down to the big toe anymore, and I've seen in my practice of social work, I've seen gangrene set in with diabetics, and the toe turns black. And I wanted to do more than just look at it when I was doing my undergraduate work at DMC. and I went to patients, and I read the chart. I'm studying to be a social worker at midnights, and Mr. So and so, Miss So and so, the diabetes is settled in the foot. What does that mean? I wanted to know what it meant, and I would go in and ask the patient, "Can I see your foot?" And you look at a foot, and the toe is black and swollen. And may I touch it? Yes. And it would be cold, feeling like leather, but it would be so painful. And we would talk about it, what had happened. I'm not cleaning my foot the way I should, and I'm not eating the way I should, and whatever it was that was happening, it's not working the way it should. And that's where it would start, and we've got a case. I haven't talked to this lady in a long time, at least a year. She's married to a veteran. A Vietnam veteran, and he started to show signs of diabetes. And I told her, no, he didn't just start showing signs of diabetes. He had this for a while, and he was keeping it from her. And eventually they took his foot. They took his leg below the knee. They came back the following year and took his leg right at the thigh. And now here come the other foot, and that's that phrase I learned a long time ago, bilateral disarticulation.
Okay.
Bilateral disarticulation, or what that means is bilateral means two. Both legs were impacted, and they ended up taking both of his legs, and a few months after that, he died. So you
remember Mabel King? She used to be on that 70s show and 80s show. That's
What's Happening.
What's Happening? That's right. That's right. That's right. With Rerun and Roger and Dee. Well, I knew her in California, and she was she loved people, and we'd go over her house because she loved Bid With. She loved Bid With, and she loved to cook for everybody.
Okay.
And she'd start early in the morning cooking, call everybody up. And now she was, bless her heart, she was a heavy drinker too. And she would sit at that dining room table after she was finished cooking, and everybody arrived, and she wouldn't raise from that table till 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning.
Bid With.
Well, she was a diabetic.
Oh boy,
And,
I hate to ask, what happened?
She met her transition. It took, quite a number of years because she was in that routine of cooking just some of everything, but it was fattening, greasy food, I have to say.
Yep.
You had your barbecue, you had your fried chicken,
Yep.
even oxtails, but she did have greens. But she was a big cooker, and she loved, company, and she loved her some Bid With. And after she finished cooking all that food, she'd sit at that dining room table, and she wouldn't get up until 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. Yeah.
Well, when we look back of people we know and loved ones, and get to thinking about how did this happen, it's never just at that moment. It's always something that you knew and you saw, you heard about the week before, the month before, the year before, and bit by bit by bit, the quality of life begins to fall apart. For folks who are not just drinkers, smokers, the diabetic syndrome, and people that are diagnosed with diabetes for whatever reason, I never could figure it out. At least in my dad's case, he was never invited, at least I don't know anything about it, to any teaching or to any classes. Okay. Why don't you come to Beaumont, or why don't you come to Providence, or why don't you come to DMC or someplace, and we're having these classes about diabetes and what you need to know to prevent a spread or an intensification of this circumstance. So maybe that's something, Madam Grand Rising, we need. And those that are listening to this program today and over the next couple of weeks, maybe we need to do a little bit more investigating about this, because African Americans are significant on the list of folks that are suffering with diabetes. We're there.
Diabetes and what's that, kidneys? The dialysis.
Dialysis, you're talking about kidney failure.
Yes.
Yeah,
kidney failure,
heart
diabetes,
attacks,
And high blood
strokes.
pressure runs rampant in our community.
Yeah, and that's part of the message that we try to bring up with the welfare rights, Grand Rising, and that is we have to take better care of ourselves and
Yes.
better care of each other.
Yes.
That's
What's
right.
the pastor's name, Miss Clayton, on Tim? You know, it's got the Wayne County Health Connection wagon that's going all around, and people are able
Oh.
to go there. And he's over on DeQuinder. You all know his name. He'll come back to me.
Right.
We used to have traveling mobile medical
Yes.
trucks that would go to different neighborhoods and do high blood
Right.
pressure testing and kidney function and all those kinds of things. Hartford Baptist Church was real good for once a week having a full medical regimen of body scans and mammograms and
Yeah.
blood testing, and you're free of charge. You dental work, and you could go up in there for a whole week. They had doctors and whatnot there. Central United Methodist Church before it was Central. Cass United
Yes.
Methodist Church with Robert, what is his name? Costea. Why do I remember that name? Dr. Costea, Costea, one of the primary diagnosticians in the country. And he had all those homeless and non-homeless people coming
Yeah.
to him, testing for different circumstances, and they had medications and prescribed medications right there at Cass Church. So if you prove positive for cancer, you prove positive for diabetes, you prove positive for high blood pressure. There was a medical doctor there. Castile was the head guy, but the whole basement was full of doctors and nurses there to treat strangers and tell you, here's what you do, and you come back the next week and we will follow up. Hundreds of people would show
Yeah.
up on a Saturday, and we don't have those things anymore, Grand Rising.
We just had a mobile, by the way, we just had a mobile health van here in the springtime, and I hear that when I find out the date, they're coming back in the fall,
Okay, well,
parked at the City Hall parking lot. Yeah.
that's something that the community is going to have
Yeah.
to request and demand, because we got plenty of
Yeah.
hospitals. We
Yeah.
got all kind of hospitals. That green clinic situation that you got for seniors up there in Highland Park, up there at the
Oakwood.
what's the name of it?
Oakwood.
Okay, but what's the name of the group that drives the green vans?
That's Oakwood.
Is that what it's called? I don't know. The name
yes.
is escaping me. Okay, Oakwood Clinics, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Elderly people, 62
Yeah.
or 65 years of age
Right.
or older, can go there free charges.
They cater to the senior citizen population. And I've heard nothing but good news and reports. And you remember, Maureen, when the first COVID vaccines came to Highland Park? We all had a meeting with the Oakwood Clinic here in
Couple of
Highland Park.
times. Yes. Couple of times we met with them, and no resistance. Wanted very
No.
much to get involved and to try to engage seniors in health care practices, health care involvements and engagements and whatnot. So, that's part of what our task is as a member of the community. If somebody must have known that this 26-year-old that killed this 2-year-old baby needed some mental health treatment. Somebody must have known there's something
Right.
wrong with this guy, and he
Right.
needs to go somewhere
That
before
didn't
this
happen
thing
overnight.
gets out
All
of
that
hand.
anger
Yeah.
had to have been displayed more than just this time. But like I said, I was talking to some men the other day, and they said there are men who purposely commit crimes to go and to take care of him.
Well, that's one way of solving this stuff. My cousin, Tracy Golden, that's the
Yeah.
nurse that's coming out of the little convenience
Right.
store.
How is she?
Well, no. The 19-year-old shot and killed her.
Oh, that's right. I
Yeah.
am so sorry. Forgive me.
No. Well, you know what? We have so much of this. It's hard to try
Too
to
much.
figure out,
Too much.
which individual case, because we have two
That's
or three
right.
or four of
She was
these
a
every
nurse
day.
and she was well loved. Right. That's
Well
right.
loved,
At the hospital. Right. Right.
And this
Oh, yeah.
19-year-old that shot and killed her was just 19. And, he's been in jail for what? Let me see. That was in December, January. And by January, Reverend Malik Shabazz, who is battling for his health after
God bless
having
him.
a massive heart attack, was one of the
Sending up my
community
prayers.
groups, Pastor Mo, the
Yes.
Detroit 300, a whole grouping of people went
Yes.
to the police chief in Detroit to ask for additional assistance to find who killed my cousin. And
Yes.
and that kid was 19 years old when this happened, and he's probably 20 now. And how long? He'll never come out of jail again. But I know somebody knew him,
If he come
and
out.
knew that maybe he needed some kind of intervention before
Yes.
we get to this point where he's out on the streets and killing folks. And I mean, we have these signs, Miss Clayton.
We have,
We
excuse
have
me, we
these
have a lot of signs.
signs.
We have a lot of
May I tell you
signs.
what I just experienced with some anger
Excuse me.
issue just last week? DTE now has gotten the program back where they're finally picking up your old refrigerators, right?
Yes.
So I have a refrigerator that, it still runs, but it's not working. So I was looking through my DTE bill, and I saw, well, they started that program again. So I give them a call. Okay, they come on the 27th, Tuesday. They're supposed to come between 8 and 12. I got a text message. I even got a confirmation call about 7:57 in the morning that they were coming. Here it is, 3 o'clock. They hadn't come. So I called back. The supervisor says they will contact the drivers. They eventually come about 4 o'clock. It's two gentlemen. One had long locks. The other one was 7 feet tall. When he came in, I said, "Whoa, you are so tall. How tall are you?" He said 7 feet. Well, to make a long story short, they came in the basement. He looked at the refrigerator and he says, "Oh, I had a gentleman remove my side door because the refrigerator is so big,
Yeah.
So that he did that morning. So the side door was sitting outside. So he says, "Oh no, we can't take this refrigerator because you don't have it plugged up." So I said, "Well, I talked to the program and I told them that I would plug the refrigerator up when you all arrive." So, "Oh no, you don't follow the rules. You need it plugged up at least an hour before. We can't take this right now. You don't follow the rules." And just like he was just,
He was
over me like I'm
inappropriate.
some child or something.
Yeah, he was
And
inappropriate, and you should have reported him.
so it gets worse. So as he's going on, and then he finally stops and he says, "Oh, I don't have a tape measure," because he wanted to measure how large the refrigerator was. He said, "Do you have one? Because I left mine at the last resident's house." I said, "Well, I don't know. I don't think so." Then he started back into just scolding me. And then as he just broke and said, "Go get me that tape measure." So I said, "Oh, no, it's time for you to leave."
He was inappropriate. Doesn't even sound like it was a DTE employee. Doesn't
It
even
was.
sound like there was sound to me like you were in some level of danger. That's what it sounds like to me. I hope you reported him
Oh,
because
I did.
yeah, he that's not
And
his job. That's not
the
his job to
the
go
crew that
and
returned, and I
scold the
described
public.
the situation. He says, "Oh, I know who you're talking about," and I'm going to say his name. He said, "You're talking about Eddie." He says, "Yeah, he's very negative. I used to work with him, and I requested not to work with him anymore." He said, "I know who you're talking about." So the supervisor said, "I heard that he got a very hard reprimand.
Well, see, it's Welfare Rights has a book that we
Yeah.
have at our office, and it's called the First Contact Book. And so when a person first comes to Welfare Rights, we get
Yeah.
their name and information, and what's the problem and whatnot, because it's the first contact. And it was
Right.
Marion and Nida and Yvette that talked about the first contact is very important because your understanding about this agency, this event, that organization is based on that first contact. So if
Okay.
there's somebody that came to your residence and
Yes.
scolded you, that was the
Yes.
first contact. And that
Right.
person should not be going out anymore. I feel the same way about police officers that are aggressive and out here slamming women to the ground, and like the
Ooh.
one in Warren, and the kid smart mouth, 17 years old, talking back, and the police officer smacked him in the face and
Ooh.
bust him on the ground. That's the first contact. That guy might wanted to be a police officer, and that wasn't the first time he was violent. Put him
Right.
on the desk and let him type some reports. He
There
don't
you
need
go.
to be out here working with the public
No,
because
not with the public.
first contact is too negative for a guy
Yeah.
that's like that.
Mm-hmm.
See,
Well, I made a extensive report.
and you were supposed to, and he needs to
Yes,
be
because I don't
rerouted to
know
something
what
else.
that man is capable of. I don't know him from a bag of rocks.
I remember Coleman Young, the Honorable Coleman Alexander Young, said a long time ago, and we were arguing and fighting about the water department then. There was a lot of drinking and everything going on. And talked to Uncle Coleman about some event, some incident that had happened. And the mayor at that time said, well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to fire him from that job, but we'll find him another job someplace else. And I was asking, well, why are we doing that? He said, because the man still has to earn a living. He can't work this way in the public, but he still has to earn a living someplace else. And he was right. So this guy that came to your house and violated your public consumer position, Madam Grand
Yeah.
Rising, shouldn't be able to go to anybody else in the public representing DTE. Need to find him another job someplace else because he still has a family and has to try to find a way to keep his family, take care of his responsibilities some other kind of way,
Since you said that, that's great advice. I'm going to call that supervisor back up. He's a very professional, intelligent young man, and he listened to my complaint, didn't interrupt me, and gave me all respect. So I've got a good relationship with him. So I'm going to double back. Okay?
That's a good idea. Good idea. All right,
I
Madam Grand Rising.
I just want to give just one tip before I leave, though.
Well, I say we've been
you were
holding
mentioning
you
about,
on the line to give us your final report, Madam Grand Rising. Go ahead.
Well, it's about the water here in Highland Park.
Yes.
And so where we're at right now is that the state will also be involved in the mediation process with Great Lakes Authority in Highland Park. What that means is that $25 million that we were supposed to receive in this budget that just passed in the Senate, we did not get that. But because the state will be involved in the mediation, it will mean that eventually that we will get our infrastructure, the pipe, repaired, fixed, new, and also the numbers are still climbing. The last thing I heard was $58 million coming to Highland Park.
Okay, and I've heard some similar reports, but and I know there's still that activity going on July 18th where there's a bus going to Lansing. Is that still on target?
No, that's not only because, it's so crazy. I personally went on the website, went to the Michigan legislators' calendar. The 18th and 19th and 20th of July are just tentative dates.
Okay.
They are shut down in Lansing until September.
Okay, so that activity has to be reorganized for a different date.
We're looking at possibly October.
Okay.
Because I called in September is completely booked, for the east wing of the steps of the Capitol. And the east interest is the most desirable interest. I talked to a young lady yesterday from Lansing, and she said that the soonest she has a date looks like in the month of October.
Well, all right, Madam Grand Rising, we will insist that you give us and keep us up to date on whatever that rerouted activities coming up so that we can participate and support. That sound like a plan?
Yes, that is a plan. United we stand.
Thank you, Madam Grand Rising. Go out today because it's only going to be in the upper 70s and very pleasant today. Thank you, Madam Grand Rising.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure. God bless you both.
And thank you much. All right now.
Bye-bye.
313-868-4336, 313-868-0351, or 868-0342. Caller, you've been very patient. Thank you for calling. This is the live broadcast of Ask Welfare Rights. Caller, you on the air. All right, caller, you're off the air. All right, didn't take but a minute. All right, we're down to our last 8 or 9 minutes. We've said a little something about education, and I wanted to make certain that we say this again. Miss Clayton and I were on a telephone call the other day with some folks from Gallaudet University, And those that don't know, Gallaudet, Galludet, is a university that specializes in post-secondary education for hearing impaired communities. And I had been there a couple of times over the last 20, 25 years as a commencement speaker. And I was urging Miss Clayton to get involved with trying to reach them because she's been doing some work around hearing impaired elementary school kids. And we finally got this telephone call. She did it. And we're able to talk to some very, very interesting people. And want to say it again, we're trying to organize 10, 12, we don't really have a number. But if you're a parent of an elementary school student, and I'm saying it that way because it looks like that's the group that's the most in trouble. But if you're the parent, a grandparent, a relative, friend of an elementary school student who is hard of hearing or completely deaf, we want to hear from you because we got to gather up some parents and some kids and take them to Washington, D.C., where the Gallaudet University is, and get these kids and the parents involved with activities, educational activities, supports activities, assistance activities, resources, and all of that sort of thing. So after 3 or 4 day visit, we can come back and get the Detroit Public School System or other institutions to get more involved in providing the necessary kind of resources that the children that are hard of hearing need. A lot of times kids who are that do have hard of hearing issues are pushed off into that category of being learning disabled. And they're not. They can't hear. Nothing wrong with their brains. They can't hear. And so it has to be something that's been worked on. A lot of you might remember we had a Detroit School of the Deaf that was right there on the Lodge Service Drive and Forest or Warren, whatever that corner was. And it was there for a long time. And then when it closed down, kids were dispersed into general population, and the power that the Detroit School of the Deaf had started to diminish more and more and more. So, Ms. Clayton, what do you think? That was our final conclusion, or at least one of the final conclusions. Let's take some kids and some parents to D.C. and learn a little bit more about what's going on and what's available. What do you think?
I'm all for it, Maureen. We got to help. We got to help all our children. We've identified this group as having suffered a lot since that school closed. We're trying to get the data, the test score. We want to see these results, but we just talking to parents that we know, it's not good. It's not good. The deaf and hard of hearing child is different. My grandson is deaf and hard of hearing, and this was all brand new to his mother and I. It presents itself as a child who's ignoring you. So we're talking to him, and we're thinking he's being hard-headed. No, it's not being hard-headed. He can't hear us. And I remember and there's a difference. I had a cousin. He's a doctor now, but when he was small, he had the fluid in the ears. And so, that's one way you find out that, that child is not being hard-headed. They can't hear. But this wasn't the case with my grandson, and his mother didn't think anything was okay. So here we go. These young parents, well, Mom, he's going to, he'll grow into it. He'll be okay. No.
That's what they think.
That's what they think.
Mm-hmm.
He's
Maybe not. Yeah.
I had her to take him to get his speech checked, and in the process of getting his speech checked, they tested his hearing, and that's where the problem was. And so grandparents...
And they can't tell you, I can't hear. They can't tell you that because they don't know they can't hear.
They don't know they can't hear. And so we have to look and read those signs, and that's why grandparents are so important. because grandparents have the experience and the life experience, and we've seen enough children, and we can say, okay, something's not quite right. We gotta do a double take on this. And so, and I had to threaten my daughter because I would call, because I was in Japan, and I would call and say, have you taken him to the doctor yet? Well, mom, and I had to threaten her with the aunties. I said,
Yeah.
don't let me call the great aunties, because you're going to be in trouble.
Yeah, send them over to the house.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, Mr. Engineer, I think you were telling me we had 3 minutes left. Did I read that right? Thank you very much. All right. Well, when the babies are born, and congratulations to Miss Taylor Kirkendale, little boy born, I think his name is Tyler, yesterday. And certainly to Navarre and to Bernice. Baby Zoe turned 2 months old on the 5th of July. So, we have to look at things, and we have to pay attention. And, of course, the moms and the dads, they don't see anything but I love you. And grandparents and aunts and uncles, we have to say I love you, but let's see. And every now and then I clap my hands to see if Zoe can hear. And I clap my hands and her head turns. Oh, okay. All right, she can hear pretty good. Put my fingers up in front of her face. She'll look at my hands and she can focus pretty good. All right, but we have to pay attention to things. And so if you have a child who is diagnosed with learning disability, you really need to take that child to the pediatrician and see, what are we talking about? Test those ears. Right. Test those ears to see if this is a child that may have some learning, or not learning, but hearing deficits. At my school, Detroit Community, I bring in hearing and vision testing every year. Every single year. And we go back into one of the rooms that's quiet and take first grade, kindergarten, first grade. Let me do, what do we do? Kindergarten, first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth graders. I test them every year to see if they can see and see if they can hear. And we've got some significant numbers of children who hear not as well as the parents think they should.
Yes.
Right? And we don't know, because they don't say anything. So if you're a parent, a friend, in contact at all with a parent that, or a parent that has a child who's learning disabled, all the way from kindergarten up to the 12th grade, call us at Welfare Rights, 313-964-0618. We're pulling together a group of parents, trying to get the kids with them, and we're going to take them to where the experts are in Washington, D.C., so we can go there. I can tell you right now, I'm not going. You're going.
I'm going.
Yeah, you're going. I'm not going, so I'll expect a report every day, all right, on what's going on. But we're going to send some advocates along, and let's see what we can learn from the people that are the experts. And so when you all come back, we can set up incubators or some kind of cells where we can put these kids together and can improve their academic outcomes, because they just need a little help. You've got 1 minute to say goodbye. Go ahead.
I'm looking forward to a Maureen. And if you have a special needs child and you need help, please call Welfare Rights. If you got questions you need answered, please call Welfare Rights. Don't sit and think you don't have any help. You got help.
You have to call. All right, Lord willing, the creek don't rise. We'll be back again next Friday. I'm on my way to Detroit Community Schools right now. Anybody that needs a case of masks, you all want those masks now, don't you? And fires burning all over the place. You call me out at my school, Detroit Community Schools, or call me down at Welfare Rights, and we'll give you several boxes, or if you need a case for your church or your school, we'd be happy to share that with you. And light bulbs. We have a lot of that going on. Lord willing, the creek don't rise. I'll be back, and maybe we can get Miss Clayton to hang out with us next Friday. Until then, be careful, be safe, keep little Winter in your prayers, keep Malik Shabazz on your prayers, and the rest of us. Let's do better, and let's think better, and let's take better care of ourselves. Goodbye.
I'm Wayne County Treasurer Eric Sabri. We are living through unprecedented times. As a result, the Michigan Homeowner Assistance Fund was created. This fund, administered by the state of Michigan, is designed to help homeowners cope with pandemic-related hardships, such as delinquent property taxes. Residents may apply for up to $25,000 to help cover 2019, 2020, and 2021 tax years. Previous year's taxes must be paid in full or in a payment agreement with the Treasurer's Office. Eligible homeowners must have a qualified financial hardship that occurred on or after January 21st, 2020. You must currently own and occupy your home as your primary residence and must have owned it since January 21st, 2020. To see if you qualify, please visit waynemetro.org, call 313-388-9799, or email taxinfo@waynecounty.com. We're here to help.